today we're going to be jumping into a bit more Diablo 4, and what we're covering is going to be overpower and why it might be something you want to look at for your class. If you want to know what the most powerful damage is in the game, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're taking a look at overpower, what's it all about, should you be investing it, and why I think it's probably the most powerful thing in the game, but one that you may or may not want to spec into depending on your class. Some classes definitely should be looking at this, others, probably the squishier ones such as your rogue or your sulks, may not want to be looking into it quite as much and probably turn into crit instead. But what exactly is overpower? So if we take a look here, overpower has the chance of 3% in order to proc. When you cast a skill, it has a chance to overpower all of the damage it deals. Overpowers deal damage based on the sum of your current life and fortify. The bonus damage dealt scales with the skill that's overpowered. And damage over time, passive abilities and channeled skills cannot overpower whatsoever. Your chance to overpower cannot increase as a basic stat, but they can be guaranteed by specific effects. Now the thing that really interests me with this, it is such a different mechanic, but like it shows in the text, it's maybe one that not everyone will want to try to tackle, because the chance is set at 3%. Unlike your crit chance, which can boost the rate through certain armor pieces, your skill tree, paragon, things such as that, overpower looks like it's much set in stone. But as it states, it's also dependent on the skill that you're using. So if you've got a very high powered skill that you enjoy using, it could definitely be a fun sight to see with those massive numbers popping up. Now jumping over to a bit of gameplay, as you see me swinging away here, the white numbers were basically my standard attacks, then you've got your crit, and the blue is going to be your overpower damage. If you had absolutely nothing going on with your build whatsoever, your bog standard, probably level 1, then your overpower is going to be your highest damage. But it's also by far the hardest to pull off unless you want it just happening randomly. Now I'm slowing down this footage just to show you another thing that I really like about overpower. When you've got your crit damage coming out on your skills, you'll see there's between each enemy it hits. So ultimately, say for example I had a 50% crit rate, every single enemy I'm hitting with that skill has got a 50% chance of it not proccing on them. Whereas with overpower, whatever skill you use, whether it be single target or multi-target, it's going to affect the skill instead, and then it's going to use it, so everything hit by that is going to have a massive amount of damage to them. Now using this blast wave shrine as an example, as we're running through, very much as if your skill would proc the overpower, this is going to show you all of those blue numbers are going to be your overpower damage, but now we've got an even bigger number, and that's going to be your orange number. And your orange numbers are pretty much the highest damage you can do, because they're going to be your critical overpowers. If you're someone who can manage to get very high crit rate, very high crit damage, and you manage to have a constant way to pull off those overpowers, honestly you will tear through absolutely everything. But I think it's probably very hard to pull off, because like we saw, it's stuck at that 3%, so often you're going to find yourself using up that overpower with just a single bog standard strike from your weapons, and you're not even going to be getting it on your skills. So there's a few things you can do in order to remedy this. There'll be certain aspects that some of the classes have, such as this one right here for the Barbarian, Earth Striker's aspect. After swapping your weapon 10 times, your next attack will overpower and deal 30% increased overpower damage. Having that on your bar and knowing exactly when you're able to proc an overpower may be a really significant thing for those bosses if you've got an incredibly hard hitting skill. Or for example, your standard skill Combat Bash, after critically striking 4 times, using a two-handed weapon, your core or weapon mastery skills will overpower. Early game, all of this is very hard to pull off, but late game, with some builds, if you're managing to put together an overpower build and you've got a very high damage single strike, remember the amount of damage you get is based off of your health plus your fortifier, so if you've got a completely maxed out fortifier and a maxed out health bar, and you're able to time your overpower on your biggest hits, then you're going to generate some crazy damage and have a lot of fun while you do it. Right, you gamers, there'll be a lot more content from me. Hopefully this has helped a few of you guys and girls out. As always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on next day.